Hey everybody, I'm Sierra.
And I'm Ben.
And welcome back to another episode of The Unsolved Couple, where every week Ben and I recap one of your original gateway drugs into true crime.
Unsolved Mysteries.
Bada bing, bada boom. Tippity toppity. Bippity boppity boop. Boop. Have you ever been booped on the nose by somebody? What if a stranger walked up to you and booped you on the nose? I feel like it could go one of two ways.
It depends on the mood I'm in.
They'd have to be really good at reading the room.
I think I would probably laugh. I love a good joke. I love a good joke.
That would be so funny to be the person that goes up to strangers and just goes, boop.
I wouldn't do it because I don't trust strangers. But I love a good joke.
You do.
So I'm here for it. If someone came up and did that to me, I would laugh.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think everyone would first have
I think a lot of people would be like, what?
That caught off guard
just
look
happened?
on your face.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. Well, we're back. Another week.
What
another episode. I'd probably laugh. Yeah. Or I'd boop them back because I bet they wouldn't be expecting that. And it would be a double booping.
A double boop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, what are we chitty-chatting about today? Season 4, episode 19.
19.
Mm-hmm. Couple quick housekeeping notes. First off, later this week, I'm going to be dropping in to our listener feed a new podcast called Secrets Beyond the Sacramento River. It's by two good friends of mine, Jules and Jen. They're investigative podcasters. I would like to gift you guys the very first episode. So check it out. If you like what you hear, please go make sure to follow the podcast and, drop them a 5-star rating and review. And then the other housekeeping note before our run-of-the-mill housekeeping notes are we had another listener buy us a coffee, become a sponsor of the show. And her name is Amy. And I asked her, let me know what your favorite memories are or an Unsolved Mysteries episode. And she said Cindy James or the Ketty Cabin Murders. So she is a longtime lover of Unsolved Mysteries and a fan of the podcast. And then later in the episode, I thought it'd be fun to start reading some of our 5-star ratings and reviews. And on that note, please, please, please make sure to drop us a 5-star rating or review. It pushes us forward in all the algorithms, as well as makes us super happy. Follow us on social media. Follow us wherever you're getting this podcast. Share us with a friend. And all your wildest dreams will come true. All right. Ready to dive in?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So we got 3 stories.
We got 3 stories. So me, you, me.
Yippers, because I only have one.
You only have one. I'll start with our lost love story.
Okay.
Yeah, because we've got a lost love for us.
I got a lot.
And I have some answers for you, but I have a lot of questions about this one as well. So
I'll just let you listen.
Pay attention while I'm telling this story. And we'll try to unpack a few things, okay?
All right.
So we're dialing back the time frame to the 1930s. And the United States is just kind of starting to pull out of the Great Depression. So, because it ended in 1942, it lasted just over a decade. But for many, the cost of, this is from Robert Sachs, the personal tragedy that would continue for a lifetime. Such was the case for a young girl and her older brother who lived in Hillsdale, Texas. And in 1941, Barney Dewey was 12 years old, but was already the main male of the home. Even at the age of 12, he worked part-time at a gas station. While at the gas station working, he took care of his 8-year-old sister, Angeline. So in the reenactment, she's literally playing in the dirt, and he's attending the cars that come through the gas station. This was a very different time. And
Yeah, it's a different world.
It's a world that I cannot even understand.
We've never seen or lived or experienced.
Their stepfather, at the time, I've got no more information on this. I tried to find it, was hospitalized. I don't know for how long or for what. And their mother, Lucy, was basically working long hours as a garment worker. I'm going to guess being paid next to nothing in a terrible factory somewhere, because I've listened to a few podcasts about like working conditions at the time in these factories. It was awful. And women were even paid less than the men garment workers because they were females. And it was just like hot. Yeah, I mean, that's a different podcast for a different day. So this young boy recalls that while times were hard and the family was constantly concerned with just trying to keep what he called, quote, body and soul together, which I thought was a term I hadn't really ever heard. They were trying to make ends meet and just basically keep themselves alive. And his mom could read and write, but didn't have a major education. Like, they're just trying to keep their head above water. But at the end of the day, this is a very bleak existence. But Barney and his family managed to scrape by and stay together until one day of the spring of 1941, when he and Angelique had a visitor. A, quote, kindly old man named Reverend Nicholas. Reverend Nicholas introduced himself to Barney and claimed that he was a friend of Lucy's, which was their mother, and told Barney that she was sick and that she wanted him and Angeline to go stay with him at his home in Albany. Barney figured that they would do so and she would come and get them after she was recovered. As Barney put it, quote, he could quiet our fears with a few words and a piece of candy, of which he was known to always carry in his pocket. This literally seems to be the origin story of like, don't get into the car with the stranger with candy.
Yeah, I think that came after this.
I didn't. So Reverend Nicholas took the two children to a fancy hotel.
Let's just get this straight.
Okay.
There's no way this man was a reverend.
He was.
There's no way he was following the good
I know.
book.
And here's, unfortunately, this is going to get worse. And it's not going to get worse per Unsolved Mysteries. And I'll tell you what, even to this day, this man is considered a man of honor within this community. Okay. I don't think people have looked into this like you and I did. So Reverend Nicholas takes the two children to a fancy hotel. Oh, sorry to keep going back. I found a picture of this man. During this time frame, he was dressed in the most luxurious clothing I've seen. This wasn't just like a man that was, we've seen in a couple of other the Great Depression stories, that was like able to kind of get through and even be comfortable. This man was living in the lap of luxury among people who were starving and barely able to feed their children. And he was doing it whilst telling people he was a man of God. So just, sorry, I didn't want my personal feelings to get into this, but clearly you guys are here for a reason. I think we're past that point. So he takes them and gets them both fancy, beautiful new outfits, feeds them a scrumptious dinner. I tried to look, no word on what the dinner was. And the next day, all dressed up in their new clothes, cleaned and filled, bellies full, he takes photographs of them, which again was like a luxury at the time. Barney tells them that something had happened to Lucy and that they were unable to see her. And him and Angeline were taken by Reverend Nicholas to a bus station. Then at this point, Nicholas says, like, where are we going? Or not Nicholas, sorry, excuse me. Barney asks him, where are we going? And Reverend Nicholas tells them, you guys are going to just go on a little trip, but not to worry, and everything would be okie dokie. So as Barney and Angeline got into the bus, she starts to cry. She's, 8 at the time? Saying that she doesn't want to go, she misses her mother, and Reverend Nicholas tried to calm her down, saying that they were going to be meeting up with Lucy once they got off the bus. And every time they questioned or objected to anything, Reverend Nicholas would soothe their feelings and said, everything is going to be all right. These two sweet children trusted him and believed them that they were going to be seeing their mother at the end of this bus ride, and that's where their end destination was. However, later that day, Barney and Angeline arrived with Reverend Nicholas at a foster home. So Barney believed that Lucy was going to meet them there. A few days later, however, he starts to realize that things are not adding up. His mother is nowhere to be found. So Reverend Nicholas and his adopted son, Nick Crane, come to the orphanage to pick up Barney, but not his sister, Angeline. She starts to cry and sob. She holds on to her brother and tries to follow them to the car. She had to be physically restrained by an employee at the orphanage. As they left, she yelled to Barney, "You promised me you were going to find our mom." But there was nothing that the sweet boy could do. Only later did Barney understand that the fancy new clothes and the photograph had been used as an advertisement to show prospective foster parents. So, get this. Barney is sent to live on a 100-acre ranch outside of Albertine, Texas. And this man is a better human than I am, because Barney is interviewed on Unsolved Mysteries. He's the one looking for his sister.
Yeah, he's the one that brought this to Unsolved Mysteries.
I don't know if it's just goodness in this man, but he talks highly of his foster parents. And I'm going to tell you what he said. So first off, we find out that his foster parents are none other than Reverend Nicholas's secretary. So a woman who claims to be like a paid employee of whatever church these people are a part of. This is the secretary of the church. And her husband, who conveniently at the same time were in desperate need of a ranch hand. So this woman, during the Great Depression, owns 100 acres.
Well, this is the 40s now. We're out of the Depression.
Okay,
this is during
on the
World
cusps
War II.
of it, yeah.
Yeah, just coming out of it.
And she's working as a secretary and has 100 acres and is in need of a ranch hand that is umbrella, like disguised as, I'm going to be a good person and foster a child. Hey, you guys, it gets better.
As we learned, they weren't really foster parents.
So Barney tells us that he was really happy because he was given responsibility. He was responsible for driving the tractor, plowing, doing all of the chores on the ranch to keep the animals fed and cared for. He enjoyed this immensely because he felt like he was in charge, like he had a purpose. He was doing something. He had his own horse and could do whatever he wanted to on his ranch. Because, you guys, he lived in a separate home. These human garbage bags could not even bother to let this 12-year-old boy that they had ripped away from not only his parents, but his sister, live under their roof.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They weren't foster parents. They took this kid in as an employee.
Unpaid employee.
Free employee.
This is what we call, like, he's an indentured servant.
Yeah.
And they give him a horse. They make him responsible. This is hard. Plowing and feeding and caring of animals night and day is intense labor. And I'm sure there's a part of this kid who, for the first time in his life, had a roof over his head and probably food in his belly, was struggling with this sort of give and take. So he tells us he does start to feel lonely because his existence on this farm or this ranch was a solitary one, because he was forced to live 8 miles, and this is 8 miles back in the day, away from the main ranch house.
Which is crazy because 100 acres is not
exactly. He wasn't even living on property.
So either
he's had a horse, so he had to ride his horse.
Either he was living on the 100 acres because, Like my grandfather was a rancher. He was he was a rancher. He had dairy cows. But the house they lived at was not on the land and the barn and all of that. So they lived there, and then him, my dad, his brothers, when they would go down to the property and take care of the cows.
They have to go there morning and night. Yeah.
He lived where all the animals were and where that is. And these people lived in town or something. I
have a lot of questions, and here's the thing. Obviously, this was a very long time ago, and I'm getting stuck on the wrong thing, but my heart broke for this. This story
it's a sad story.
Yes.
I mean,
and I don't like it when people hide under the umbrella that they are working for a faith or doing this in the name of God or whatever. Like this man, Reverend, whatever his butt is, was very proud of the fact that he was a member of whatever clergy he thought he was a brotherhood of. And he used that position of power to take advantage of people far below his station. And I'm sorry, when you're a reverend, you're supposed to be lifting your hand down and picking people up.
Well, these kids were kidnapped. I mean, really, when you get down to the brass tacks and just the facts of the matter. These kids.
This man saw to take advantage.
How this boy is telling the story. They were taken from their home under the guise of false pretenses.
Yeah.
And it appears that the parents were never told. And so, really, that falls under.
He ran an orphanage and a foster, this is human trafficking. He was human trafficking children.
He was kidnapping them and sending them and then taking those kids. Like you said, he was kidnapping them and then trafficking them for, we don't know, but
he obviously was very well off.
I'm going to imagine he wasn't just doing this and not receiving anything in return.
Yes.
We don't know. This never, at least.
I looked.
Yeah. That information's probably never.
It's
not out there.
No one in this community has bothered to look into this. So as time passes, he starts to kind of become upset about the situation that he's in. He misses his sister. He misses his mother. And so he decided he's going to just leave the ranch and he's going to go look for his family on his own. But yet he's such a good human being that he felt the need to take off all of any clothing and belongings that these quote unquote foster parents had bought for him, put on his old clothes and his old shoes, and take 37 cents that he had in his pocket that he had earned at the gas station that he showed up with, because he wasn't getting paid, again, you guys, on this ranch, and leave and go look for his mom and sister on his own. So it's 97 miles from the ranch, so I'm guessing that's probably was where he was living, to Hillsdale, Texas. When he gets there, and I have no more information on this either, he discovers that his mom and his stepfather had moved away. I don't know why. I don't think his mom was physically in great shape and maybe even not mentally, because that'll make more sense here in a few minutes. So he began a personal odyssey looking for these two women that crisscrossed Texas and nearly covered over 1,000 miles that this kid made to make it on his own with 37 cents and one outfit at 12 years old.
Yeah, this kid is pretty remarkable.
Absolutely. So oddly, we also find out Barney's able to track down his birth father, who apparently was choosing to not be, I don't know. I don't know what his story. He doesn't seem like the most attentive human being. And he then travels to Kilgore and then on to Humble, just outside of Houston, where his father then puts him on a bus to Odessa, where he'd be reunited with his mother. So he shows up at his biological father's house. His biological father seems to have an idea where his mother is. Doesn't seem to ask a lot of questions about where his daughter is. And basically puts him on a bus to go back to live with her, even though he was kidnapped from that location or from that person's custody at some point. Again, I've got so many questions. So when he gets to Odessa, he gets off the bus and recognizes his mother and runs up to her, but she doesn't recognize him. It's a weird note that they tell us in Unsolved Mysteries, because by the time they've been reunited, it's actually only been a year. This is a lot of life that happened in a very short amount of time. And the only change was, he said at some point, someone bought him a pair of glasses and his mom couldn't recognize him. To me, there is a part of me that wonders if this woman was struggling with some major potential physical or mental health issues.
The way, because Barney's the one telling the story, he's just given us the flyby. There's so much more to this story. And absolutely. I just think there's a lot we don't know.
This is me just kind of trying to
these people that have taken him. I just think the way he tells a story, I mean, this story could probably fill up an entire episode if you actually got down to
I know. It's just hard because then she turns to her son and asks him, well, have you talked to your sister? I don't know. We don't get any information on whether she had actually been doing anything to try to find them either. And I know we covered the other story in Tennessee where there was the judge and her companion going around kidnapping children from parks, kind of in the same situation, realizing that women were having to work. And so kids were left unattended. And it sounds like whether due to lack of education or lack of financial means, or even just barely being able to keep your head above water, they didn't have the wherewithal or the ability to fight back. And that breaks my heart, which is another reason why this man was taking advantage of people in their most vulnerable states. So he says, no, I don't know anything about my sister. So he asks his mom, did she sign any papers? How did we end up in this spot? And all she would let him know is that she hadn't signed any paperwork and that she would have never done that to them. She said around the time that Reverend Nicholas took them, authorities had temporarily taken her into police custody, and she wasn't sure the reason why, and then was let go shortly after to come home and find that her kids had been taken because she had been, quote, arrested. So there's your scheme, which means that the police were probably being paid to bring these people in for false charges. This is human trafficking 101. So, and no one ever had told her where the two children were taken. So Barney goes on and lives with his mother and stepfather till he's 18 years old. And in 1947, he's married. 4 years later, him and his wife Stella travel to Aberdeen in an attempt to locate Reverend Nicholas and ask him a few questions. They ended up meeting up with Nick Crane, who owned a pharmacy in town. Nick Crane, if you remember, is the adopted son of Reverend Nicholas. And Nick tells him that Reverend Nicholas had actually died a few years ago. His orphan had been shut down by the state of Texas. But again, I could not find any records as to why it was closed. And whatever records had existed were kind of just tossed around in some buckets or boxes in the back of the pharmacy. So Barney and his wife sift through all the papers. They find nothing. They believe that some of the records were destroyed by employees of the orphanage. I'm going to guess that maybe that had happened dumping like everyone's trying to, what's this? There's like several movies where there's scenes of like, the FBI is coming and everyone's like got shredders and is trying to dump all the records. That's what I imagine happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Barney, now at the age of 62 years old, is living in Stockton, California. He himself is a minister, I found out. They didn't say that, but I looked it up, like that's what his career was. And for the last 50 years, he has been searching for his sister. He's been unable to contact her or find out anything that knows about any of her whereabouts. All he has left are a couple of pictures of her. They were taken between 7 and 8 years old. She was born in 1933, adopted in around about the time of 1941. And their mother passed away in 1985. But Barney believes that as an adult, his sister may remember her and him, and also be looking for him. So Barney and Anjali are two of thousands of children who passed through Reverend Nicholas Orphanage. Again, that should be a red flag. No orphanage should have thousands of children coming through it. That's way too many kids. And his orphanage was called the West Texas Children Aid and Welfare Association. And during the early to mid 1990s, many of the families were in financial troubles who had their children go missing.
You said the 1990s. You mean 1930s?
No, sorry, 1900s.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of where Unsolved Mystery leaves us.
All right, update.
Solved. On the night of the broadcast, Barney's prayers arrived when Neil Smith of Cedar Hill recognized Anjali as his adopted sister, Martha Jean Smith. The picture of her and Barney was the same one she brought with her from the orphanage when the Smiths took her in 1941. She had grown up in Cross Plains. Another adopted brother named Paul had actually tried to help her locate her birth family, but had been unsuccessful. Martha Jean is mildly mentally handicapped and lives and works at Rainbow Acres, a group home for mentally disabled adults in Camp Verde near Flagstaff. Camp Verde is actually really close to where we stayed when we went up to Strawberry this last year. Verde means green, so it's called Camp Green, but we like to use Spanish words in Arizona. There. Put that in your book of fun facts. So,
put that in my Rolodex. Thank you.
Sadly, she had grown up with the belief that her birth family did not love her and wanted nothing to do with her. That was kind of the story that she was told.
It breaks my heart.
I know. However, she was happy to learn that that wasn't actually true. And Barney immediately made arrangements to reunite with her at his daughter's house in Chandler. So March 23rd, 1992, a few weeks after the broadcast, they are able to reunite. They are thrilled to see each other. They're happy that this whole search is over. And his only regret was that he wasn't able to find her, obviously, before their mother had passed away. And she expressed on the Unsolved Mysteries update the joy that she felt, and she's now happy to believe that she has two families that love her instead of just one. So that afternoon, Barney and Martha Jean began to fill in details of the years they had spent apart. They were happy to learn that even with her disabilities, that she had been raised in a loving home and was very well taken care of by her adopted family. He's very grateful about that, and that he considers this one of the high points in his life. So yeah, there you go. And he ended up living till March 23rd, 2019, and passed away at the age of 90 years old.
So he died on March 23rd.
2019.
And they reunited on March 23rd.
Yes, 1992. That gave me goosebumps, Ben. I did not even put that together. Yeah. There you go. God works in mysterious ways, huh? So yeah.
Is she still alive?
I couldn't find any record of her passing. But I mean, 2019, she was 8 in 1941.
Well, she was born in 1933. So she's almost 100.
If she is still alive.
She's 92.
Yeah. I should look up. I didn't look up that camp of it up in.
That's what you said, right? Yeah, 1933. So she'd be 92 years old.
Yeah. I could not find any record that she had passed away. It's hard because she's got 2 names. Like on the Unsolved Mysteries, she's
I'm
one
going to guess she goes by her adopted name. But she goes by her adopted name now. Because that's the name she went by most of her life. Which Smith is a very common last name.
It is, yeah. Sure I mean, Camp Verde is a very, very tiny, tiny community. So if she lived there for as long as she did, I'm sure that there are people that are aware of who she is. So, yeah. So to answer some of your questions, I did do some research in on this man. What was infuriating in a way is that this tiny, smaller Texas town where he's from, he's like buried in a place of honor, like with a plaque. And there's like write-ups in the newspaper. There's all kinds of like things about him in the museum. I think that this is very evident to me that this man was not doing things correctly. For thousands of people to go through his orphanage, for him to be so uber wealthy in a time where money was hard to come by. And on top of that, that most of the families whose children went missing were impoverished. This man, in my opinion, I mean, here's the thing, he's dead. I can say whatever I want to him about him. I think he's a terrible human being who was human trafficking children and taking advantage of vulnerable people and pretending to be the sweet reverend with a candy in his pocket and dressing kids up and put in their bellies. And it seems like I'm grateful that this Smith family took this girl in and gave her a good life, according to her. However, this boy was given to his secretary to be a labor producer. Does that answer any of the questions? You and I both had questions when we were watching this.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was pretty evident that there was so much more to this story.
Yeah, I found a Facebook post about him and kind of just like glorifying him. And I
mean, it's pretty clear though. We've now covered multiple things. We've covered the Tennessee. We covered the trains from New York. That wasn't someone kidnapping them. That was so many kids were homeless on the streets.
Yeah.
And New York was they were trying to push them into an area where maybe they could have a better thing. But unfortunately,
people took advantage of that and looked at it as free labor.
Yeah, they saw free labor, and families, brothers and sisters were separated. That was one of the stories we had where that man was separated from his sister, and he was looking. Like we already said, this world, we don't even understand because 2026 does not even function anywhere close to this. That's not a justification at all.
With that said, you as a man of God were profiting off children, ripping them away from their families. If you had so much money, why weren't you trying to lift these families up? Why weren't you providing food or clothing or education for them? Instead, you saw this as an opportunity to serve yourself, to make money off of them, and to appear to be doing it in some good grace. It's like, man, that is low, low, low.
At the end of the day, these 2 kids were kidnapped from their parents.
And
this boy was separated from his sister for 50 years.
Yeah.
And that's terrible.
Yeah. And I don't know. I'm not an investigative journalist. I'll tell you what, if you live down in Texas, this would be an amazing piece. I think it would be an amazing write-up to kind of do a deep dive, to be able to go to the archives, to be able to interview people. I think it would be really fascinating. And to, I don't know, right or wrong, I guess, would be potentially to just find out some answers. I know there's not going to be any justice for some of these people, but to maybe shine a light on maybe something not good. What do you have for us, Benjamin?
I have a terrible story for you. Buckle up, Buttercup. All right, I got the story of Joe and Maddie Harvey. It's a murder. I was told I don't say that anymore. Murder. All right. But this is a terrible story. I don't like this story. It kills me, man. Joe and Maddie Harvey are amazing people. They own a little gas station, little grocery store in Lewis Chapel Mountain, Tennessee, and I want to go there and live there. From the pictures I saw, I'm in. I'm here.
Did you look up the town currently?
No.
No. What's it called?
Lewis Chapel Mountain.
Lewis Chapel Mountain,
Tennessee. It's just outside of Chattanooga, which Chattanooga is beautiful. So also there was a gas station, I told you. It was also a repair shop. I think Joe worked on some cars. It was the only place to kind of get some groceries for miles. And it was a gathering place. People came there, they hung out. And Joe and Maddie, which I guess Maddie went by Teet, because they're interviewing family members and they're calling her Teet all the time. And
do you know what a pig nipple is called?
A teat?
A teat. It's just very close. Like, it just was making me like, please don't. If someone called me a teat, I don't think I would think of that as good.
A teat. Her name was Teet. That's what she went by. Okay. I will call her Maddie, but they loved people coming in. They talked to people. They just were a very big staple. They were an older couple that owned this place, and they were a big staple in this town. Everyone loved them. They get his brother in there. He's talking, and he's saying, they didn't have a bank account, which makes sense for people that probably grew up around the Depression. They kept cash receipts and a lot of cash, like in their home, because like I said, they didn't really trust gas stations. So he says, like, I tried to tell them to get a bank account, put it in there. They didn't think it. He even said, I told them to get a gun to protect themselves. Why would we need to do that? We're in this small town. We trust everybody. And they were just very trusting people. So, but unfortunately on March 4th, 1991, the sheriff is called because guess what? The store is not open by 9 a.m. and no one can remember the last time that has happened. So, of course, they call the sheriff. And we get the sheriff, Joe May, out. It looks like he's the only law enforcement guy in this town, which probably tracks for that town. And he shows up. He goes to the house. He gets in there and he notices something's wrong. He goes in the house, and inside the house, it's all burnt up. The house is not burned down to the ground, but the inside is like charred. And then as he goes outside, he's going down the steps from the house, and he notices like blood spots and stuff on the stairs. So he knows instantly. He says, something's going on. So he calls TBI, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations. They come out and they start doing an investigation. One thing that they noticed is there is a gas can, like a gallon gas can on the counter, blood spots throughout the house, at least that they can find, that's not burnt up. We get Bill Pope, who is the district attorney general. He says, listen, we're told these two people, they're missing. The house is burnt up. We all come to find out they keep money in the house. So obviously that leads the investigation that this was a possible robbery. And, obviously they think that this might be a murder. We learned that Joe and Maddie, they didn't have children of their own, but they had a lot of family in this little town, and they had nieces and nephews. And they were very close with all of their extended family. And they were extremely close with their 27-year-old niece, Cheryl Holland, who also had a daughter of her own, a 5-year-old. I learned later, a son. I guess they say like they treated her like their daughter. They loved her. They loved her daughter. That she came in, she hung out. They would do anything for her. But crazy, a week after Joe and Maddie go missing, because technically they're missing. We've got a crime scene. Cheryl is disappeared. At a truck stop about 2 hours away, they find her truck abandoned. Keys are in the truck. There's a necklace on the ground. Her wallet and ID and everything is in the car. Bill Pope, who's the like I told you, the district attorney general, he says, listen, this is strange. The crime scene looks like she was abducted. And he says, now we're really concerned. She's 2 hours away. We have 3 immediate family members missing.
And a charred house.
Yeah.
Also, I found us a house in this area.
Perfect. We're
it is
going.
12 acres.
Okay.
3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2,700 square feet. It's only listed like at $540. It has nothing but forest around it. It's super isolated.
I'm there.
It's got
Sold.
like a garden in the front.
I'm sold.
There are trees for days. There's a huge front porch.
Stop telling people about this
Look
place.
at this.
Trust me, if I could sell everything I own and move and not talk to another soul for the rest of my life.
Ceiling to floor, all wood.
I'm telling you.
I
would move to a secluded place and not talk to another soul for the rest of my life. I'd be okay with that.
Well, you still have to talk to our friends on the podcast.
No, I talk to you. I don't talk to them.
Okay, sorry. I'm going to be looking on Zillow, but I'm also listening to your story.
You got to listen to my story. Now Cheryl has disappeared. We're concerned. What I say? The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation are investigating. So guess what they bring in? They bring in Cheryl's, they call him her common law husband, Eddie Wooten. Eddie does not seem...
Whoop, there it is.
No. Wooten.
Wooten, there it is. No, this guy, not to give anything away, but he's not cool. I probably should.
He just seems like a crazy character, okay? So they start questioning Eddie. What's going on? You know, where was Cheryl? When did you last see her? They pretty much, they don't tell us exactly what he said. His story is not making sense. They bring him in again on March 10th. So now we're, about a week after this has happened. They are trying to get to the bottom of this. And they're like, listen, tell us what's going on. So Eddie says in late February, he took Cheryl to Knoxville to a hospital to get some treatment done for cancer, supposedly. It was a week-long treatment for stomach cancer. But when they asked, well, what was the name of the hospital? He can name it, right? And they come find out that Cheryl had been borrowing money from family members and friends for supposed cancer treatments.
It's insane how many times people use cancer to take advantage of people.
Back then, though, it was probably I was like, back then,
easier. This is actually she was ahead of her time. Which is not a brag.
So they come to find out after they've already been doing their digging, Eddie's story's not matching up because the week they were supposed to be in Knoxville at this cancer treatment, she was working at her truck stop in Chattanooga, which was her job at the time. He's like, so how could she be in Chattanooga and Knoxville at the same time? She couldn't be. They pretty much, they put the screws to Eddie. He's like, listen, we already know what you're telling us is BS. So spill the guts. So I'm getting to my next page of my notes. Eddie broke. And he said, okay, if I tell you what's going to happen.
He broke quick.
Yeah. Yeah, he keels over pretty quick.
Yeah.
He spills the beans pretty quick. He says, okay, if I tell you what happens, what's going to happen to me? Like,
probably not something good.
Yeah. Anyway, so he says on March 2nd, Cheryl comes home and says, listen, we need more money. I don't know what for. We don't get that information, but she clearly is money driven.
I kept waiting for them to be like, there was a gambling problem or drug addiction or insane debt. There never seems to be anything other than greed.
Yeah, that's what it appears. At least from the story.
At least from what,
Eddie's not working. She's working at the gas station or the truck stop. So she comes on and says, we need more money. And I know where to get it from.
So he could get a job at any point.
You are correct. I think even if he did,
it wasn't going to satisfy whatever.
Well, it just, I guess what I'm saying is, if you already got this in your mind, you were going to get there eventually.
I'm the same thing. Motive obviously is important for human beings to rationalize, like, how did this happen? These people are living in the backwoods. And here's the thing, I'm not saying that as a knock on Tennessee. I love Tennessee. But they're living in podunk middle of nowhere, where cost of living, I'm going to guess, is next to nothing.
Especially in 1991.
That's what I mean. That was the time to live in Tennessee, because everything's expensive. Everyone move away from Tennessee. Don't go there.
It's terrible.
It's terrible.
You won't like it.
You won't like it. But it's not. That's the other thing too, is where she was living, unless there was a drug habit, it's not like she was shopping at Gucci and ordering stuff on Amazon and pretending to be. It makes no sense of her behavior other than simple. I don't. Anyways, sorry.
That's what I'm saying. I think if it wasn't that, it would have been something else that got them.
She just was not a good person, apparently. Yeah, I mean, to lie about cancer
you're already spoiling the end.
Sorry.
So she says, we need more money. So they go and they buy a gas can. They fill it up. They say they went to her parents' house first, and then they go to Joe and Maddie's house. Okay. And let me paint you. They have a single cab truck in the reenactment. I'm going to guess that this single cab, tiny Chevy yellow truck. They leave their 6-week-old son and 5-year-old daughter in the truck. As they get out, Eddie's telling the story. They're on the stairs going up to the house, and she says to Eddie, did you bring the gun? And he's like, why do I need to bring the gun? She goes, because we're gonna have to kill him. And Eddie says, do we really have to kill him? She's like, they're not just gonna give the money up willingly. We're gonna have to kill him. And according to Eddie, he doesn't really want any part in this whole story, but he does it anyway because of his common law wife, Cheryl. They walk in. Joe's on the couch watching TV. She's like, oh, hey, Joe. He's like, oh, hey, Cheryl, how's it going? And she goes, where's Teet? Oh, she's in the back. Eddie then walks up. Boom. Shoots Joe in the head. Teet comes out. Boom. Shoots her in the head. They then take the bodies and shove it in the trunk of their own car, Joe and Maddie's car. And Cheryl, their kids are in the truck, the driveway.
I know.
I guess supposedly Cheryl told Eddie, go tell the kids to get down on the floorboards, because I guess they didn't want the kids seeing them moving bodies.
I cannot imagine that these are like super safety cautious parents either.
It's a single cab truck, and you're putting 4 people, like a 6 weeks old.
I know.
Anyways,
these are human garbage bags.
So Cheryl then gets in the car and drives it across the border to the Alabama to Bridgeport Ferry along the Tennessee River. And she ditches the car into the river. They get in their truck and they drive away. He then says Cheryl returns to the house, steals $150,000 from the house, which just goes to show these people have all this money. What? Hidden in their house, because it's probably cheap to live in. These people are just simple people giving a service to the community.
Yes, absolutely. And I bet if they had asked for money,
asked,
yeah,
they would have helped her niece out.
Yes, I'm sure they would have. They seem like those kind of people.
Clearly.
Mm-hmm. Did we ever find out why she went to her mom's house first? Do you think that her mom dodged a bullet, like literally speaking?
I have no idea.
Makes you wonder.
Yeah, I don't know. So steals $150,000 from the house and then sets the house on fire. But the house doesn't burn.
No, these people literally can't do anything right. They can't parent right. They can't life right. They can't set a house on fire correctly. They are idiots.
Yeah, the inside of the house burns because you actually see file footage. You see the inside of the house and it is charred. But for some reason, the whole house doesn't go up in flames. And they never say why. But it doesn't. So obviously they're there. They're investigating. Cheryl comes back to the scene 2 days later.
Which shows that she is a psychopath, because that is what...
Well, I think she comes back and realizes, holy crap, the house didn't burn to the ground.
You didn't stay and wait and watch?
And guess what? The investigators pull out of the house and Cheryl sees...
I love this part in the reenactment.
They pull out the gas can.
The gas can.
And guess what's on the bottom of the gas can? A thumbprint. And
literally plain as day. They didn't even have to dust for it, you guys.
Like they're showing it, at least in the reenactment, like, oh, hey, check this out. We got a fingerprint.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah. Guess what it matches? The thumbprint of Cheryl Holland. Guess what then Cheryl does? Disappears. Yeah.
And I will say this, again, no shade to these cops, but once again, this is a tiny, you said what, there's like one police officer or something in this? No.
This sheriff called the right people.
That's what I mean.
They came in, and within by March 10th, so within a week.
But that is what I mean, is that they were on this immediately. Obviously, these criminals are idiots too. They literally thought that they probably got away with it scot-free. And within hours, if not a day or two, they were on the right track. But yeah, this sheriff in a tiny little town being in charge of one person, probably this was way outside of his purview.
Good for him for saying,
absolutely.
I need more expertise. I need more people that are better.
I wish we could say that more often.
That's what I'm saying. This sheriff deserves a lot of credit. He said, listen, and he noticed something's wrong. Obviously, that inside of a house is burned. But he said, something terrible's happened. This is now getting too far into what I'm capable of doing. Let me call the right people. And the right people come in and they do a good job.
And the right people are able to figure out pretty quickly that they've got two idiots that they're looking for.
They've got her thumbprint instantly.
Yeah.
So
she gone.
So they then do go to the Tennessee River, and April 17th, they find the car.
Oh my gosh.
Inside the trunk of the car is the bodies.
That breaks my heart.
Both shot in the head.
Yeah.
Terrible. Yeah, it is. It's awful. So they find the car, they get him out. So Eddie's charged with first-degree murder. They issue a warrant for Cheryl as they are now trying to track her whereabouts. They do tell this, it's kind of weird, but they're trying to say, hey, listen, this is what we know so far. Cheryl was supposedly seen at a gas station being followed by a bearded man. Didn't look like she wanted to talk to him. Supposedly, they had witnesses saying that he was in a truck following her. So they get Bill Pope in there. He's like, listen, this is what we know. He might be involved or he might not. We don't know. Was she forced by this guy? But at the end of the day, we believe she's involved in some way.
She's with a bearded man somewhere.
So she was either abducted by him and maybe he was forcing her. We don't know. Or she concocted this whole plan.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we want to know. I will say, it does break my heart because Cheryl's sister's interviewed and she believes wholeheartedly. My sister, I don't think, did this. I think Eddie did something to her. She was forced into this. She was just trying to protect her kids. And she even thinks, I think Eddie probably killed her. And
I know.
So that's where Unsolved Mysteries leaves us. Eddie Wooten is at this time
half of the duo has been caught,
being charged with first-degree murder. Mm-hmm. They want Cheryl. Clearly, she's involved to some extent.
They have some questions for her.
She's got a fingerprint on a gas can, and I mean, here's the thing:
where are the children?
I don't know. They interview the brother-in-law, and he says, "Listen, Eddie has only been in the picture for a year. He didn't even know that Joe and Maddie had cash at the house. He wouldn't have even known. Cheryl's the only one that knew. He thinks 100% Cheryl's involved."
Yeah.
He says, this guy hasn't even been around long enough to know the ins and outs of our family.
Got it.
Okay. So that's where Unsolved Mysteries leaves us. We're looking for Cheryl.
What's the up of the dates?
Update. Within an hour of the broadcast.
I love when I hear that.
Within an hour of the broadcast, they call in, hey, we think we know Cheryl. She's an employee at a gas station in Austin, Texas. They interview the deputy. She shows up, says, "Hey, lady, are you Cheryl Holland?" She goes, "Yes, I am." And she places her under arrest. Cheryl Holland then says to her boss, "I got into trouble. Because they interview her boss. He's like,
I don't think I'm going to be making it to work later.
She was working under the name Amy Forrester, had a fake ID, living a whole new life in Austin, Texas, which that's why I say the whole bearded man that they were telling that because at the time they were trying to track her whereabouts. She was last seen and they didn't know. It's clear she just took a new identity and hightailed it to Austin, Texas. She's brought back to Tennessee. She's charged for first-degree murder. She is facing the death penalty. Guess what Cheryl does? She pleads guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder. I did my research and found out they offered her, if she pled guilty to first-degree murder, they would take the death penalty off the table. Both her and Eddie pleaded guilty to first-degree murder. They both were sentenced to life in prison. So Cheryl was involved. Cheryl had a major part in this. And to the point where she pleaded guilty. Eddie has died in prison. I looked it up. Cheryl is still in prison. I found her picture, found her record in the Tennessee prison system. She's eligible for her first parole hearing in 2027.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Well, we'll have to keep an eye out and check and see if she's able to.
I hope she doesn't get it.
I hope she doesn't either.
She shot her aunt and uncle in the head. I'm not saying she was part of a plan.
She orchestrated the whole thing. She had knowledge. She knew.
She could have been the one to pull the trigger. We have no idea. At the end of the day, they're both responsible. They both technically
did this with their 2 children in the car.
And all to steal their aunt and uncle's money. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It was funny because, not funny. It's just, it was sad. They tell when they found the car.
Mm-hmm.
And the sheriff comes out. And it is clear that this sheriff hasn't had to deal with a lot of terrible things. And that makes me happy.
Yeah.
Because he says he was the one that had to identify the bodies. And you can see it in his eyes.
Yeah.
He was tore up.
Yeah.
By having. So why I'm saying that is it is clear these were very good people. Mm-hmm. A very big part of that community. And that lady and her common law husband.
What the F ever, dude? They are losers.
Cold-blooded murder.
For no flippin' reason.
So, no. She's got her first parole hearing in 2027. I hope she doesn't get out. Yeah. I hope it's denied.
Do you want me to send an email? I'm really good at sending emails for people that are about to come up for parole and say why I think they shouldn't.
Yeah. I mean, I do hope she does spend the rest of her life in prison.
She deserves to.
I saw an updated picture. She looks old and she does not look like prison has been kind to her.
They don't have Botox in prison.
That's your story.
All right. Before we get into my story and our last story, I thought it would be fun to read a few of our reviews. So, the title of the review is Love. And this is from Pod Junkie 9. And it said, happy to have found a new podcast to binge, ! Thank you, Pod Junkie 9. Okay. And then the title of this review is For Unsolved Mystery Fans. And it is from the reviewer, Bashful Mama. That sounds kind of spicy.
Bashful
Mama. Says, I loved Unsolved Mysteries when I was growing up. The best part of the podcast is rehashing it with friends. Sierra and Ben make the pod feel like a conversation between friends. I love the updates. Some of these stories have stuck with us for a lifetime, and the update reminds us of that hope. I think that's awesome. Yes, Bashful Mama. I'm glad that you're sitting around. I literally said to Ben today, one of the things I love about our podcast, at least I hope our listeners, is that they feel like they're sitting around having a conversation with friends.
It got a little wild last week because...
Can we all just talk about Ben's giggling last week? If I'm really good at tech, maybe I'll cut in.
I asked to have that cut out.
I think I'm going to save it.
It wasn't.
And I'm just going to start dropping it in. I think so. For anyone who hasn't listened to last week's, I actually cut quite a bit of the giggles out, but Ben, no joke, you guys, is belly laughing, which I'm sure most of you guys know by now that you feel like you know Ben pretty well. That's not a common occurrence.
I don't belly laugh a lot of things. Yeah. But I lost it last week. So I asked for it to be cut and it wasn't.
Well, if you would like to be in charge of the editing, then you can...
I might have to learn to edit.
Maybe that's what I need to start doing, guys. I need to play Ben's trick on himself and just do things that make him uncomfortable enough that he's like, I'll just do it myself. Don't tell Ben that that's our plan. Okay, this is the last one I'll read for, I think every week I'm going to try to read a few. So the title of the review reads, The OG True Crime. And this is from Vod Girl. Ben, this one you'll like. I like the excuse me. Coughed. I like the skeptical take, in parentheses, especially from the husband.
Am I the husband?
Yeah.
Okay.
On Unsolved Mystery episodes, which is still television good, even with their flaws. I love the episode reviews.
Do you think she means our flaws or the show's flaws?
Let's see. Which are still televised on Unsolved Mysteries episodes, which are still televised, which are oh my gosh, you guys, this should not be this difficult. Why can't I read tonight? I like the skeptical take, especially from the husband.
It's like Nate Bargatze.
On Unsolved Mystery episodes, which are still television good, even with their flaws, which I'm going to guess she meant to say, which is still good television, and she just got the two words backwards, are still good like television, even with their flaws. We've called out Unsolved Mystery for some of their things that are problematic. And I also love the episode reviews. I'm going to guess the reviews that we give when we like talk either good or bad about them. Okay. So those are 3 of our latest reviews. Hop on. Apple Podcast is the place that you can leave like a review with a rating. If you guys comment on Spotify and you leave a fun comment, I can also read those out into the Ethernet. Okay. So I'm going to tell you guys about a bank robbery. So we get at the top of the show, Robert Stacks comes on looking sharp with his trench coat and says, according to the FBI official reports, on any given day, at least 40 banks are robbed at gunpoint. Full stop. So I Googled because I was like, that's a lot of banks getting robbed at gunpoint. 40 per day is the average. So, according to 2023 FBI bank crime statistics, there were 1,263 reported bank robberies in the United States, averaging out to 3.46 robberies per day nationwide. This is a significant decline from the past decades. And the vast majority of these actually are unarmed robberies.
So I listened to a podcast a couple of weeks ago.
Okay. And about 60% of the cases are cleared, which still means 40% of people are getting away with robbery. If you're gambling on odds.
Don't know. Negative. So I was telling I've mentioned this podcast because I only listen to a couple podcasts. None of them true crime. I guess technically this is kind of.
What true crime podcast do you listen to?
Your mother. I'm supposed to say Unsolved Couple. It's called Infamous America. Mm-hmm. Great podcast. And he did like a 6-part series on the North Hollywood bank robbery, which is, if you don't know anything about it, go read about it. It is a wild, and there's footage out there of it. But he talks about in the beginning, like in the 90s, 80s and 90s, bank robberies, they were escalating massively. And also it was rising with guns and violent robbery. So this was a thing. Mm-hmm. Now it is definitely, because banks have done a lot more to combat this. And obviously law enforcement's done a really good job to combat it. But yeah, like back then, this was a problem.
Yeah. I just think it's interesting that there's actually most of them are unarmed. What are you going in there then and doing?
You see it, like they come in and they slide a note. They have their hand in their pocket.
I guess.
And at the end of the day, if you're a teller,
there's no point.
Are you going to risk that? Like, why?
No.
It's not your money. Nope. And I don't blame you. Don't risk it.
Even just when I worked at the freaking Gap, and maybe I shouldn't be giving secrets away, we were told, like, even if you see someone, like, loading up their purse with inventory, it is not worth your safety or your risk to try to intervene with that. And so, yeah, same way with that. Okay, so November 13th, 1991, 2 armed bank robbers enter a bank in Henderson, Nevada. That's where our brother-in-law is from, is Henderson, Nevada. An hour before opening, okay? The bank manager, who is there, I think at the time by himself, felt that the robbers were experienced because they understood bank procedures. The robbers knew that the manager only had half of the vault combination and that they would have to wait for the vault teller to arrive because she would have the second half of the combination. And she was set to arrive at 8 a.m. The first robber forced her to open the vault to help. Like, so he's there, gets him, makes him basically stand there and chill and be cool about it until the second person comes in who turns out to be a female.
So they go in before the bank's
open. Yeah. So they go in, only the manager's there. They understand that he only has access to half a code. They tell him, play it cool as she comes in. Literally the moment she comes in, play it cool, bro. They grab her and they force both of them to open the vault. As the first robber stole the money, the second robber is holding up the teller, the vault manager that comes in. As they are standing there, 2 other tellers walk in. What a way to start your morning out. You're literally probably been up for 45 minutes to an hour. You got your heels on, you got your coffee, you got your lunch packed. This is a bad freaking day at work. And you walk in, and the moment you walk in, there's some crazy man in a terrible Halloween mask with a gun telling you to stand against the wall.
Do you think they walked in and saw him like, I'm out.
I don't want to deal with this today. I know.
Just turn around and leave.
Yeah. So we don't know exactly when because no one tells us, but at some point, it seems that one of the employees is able to set a silent alarm. And as it's activated, and again, I have a lot of questions about protocol around this, but this seemed to be the standard at the time. The police, instead of necessarily responding right away, the police dispatcher calls the bank to see if there's an actual robbery going on. I just thought it was funny because what are you supposed to say when you pick up that phone call? Like, yes, we're being robbed. Like, you got a gun at your back. You got to play it cool.
I would imagine they're told, like, if anything seems off by the conversation, boom.
I'm sure. I just think it's like, to me, I don't know. It just seems like counterintuitive a little bit. So, okay. The police dispatch calls the bank and the bank manager answers. And when the dispatcher asks if everything all right, he answers, I suppose. The dispatcher took that as to mean that something wasn't correct. So the manager then gets off the phone and tells the robbers that the person calling was from the store across the street, and they were concerned about a few things and they had some questions. And so that he needs to go over across the street to have a conversation and straighten some stuff out, or they might call the police.
Pretty smart.
Pretty smart. I will say, this man did not do anything wrong, but he has 3 females tied up against a wall, and he's the only man in this situation. And he's like, "Oh, I gotta go, bye." And so he leaves, and he says in the thing, "Calm down, I'm gonna get there, Ben." He says in the thing, like, this was one of the hardest things he felt he had to do, but he wanted to also like get out so he could let the police know that there was a problem.
Well, because he says it's on the phone with the police.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be hanging up the phone and thinking, did they get
the message?
Mm-hmm. Or did they not?
Yeah.
And then he's trying to use this as an opportunity to say, I have to let someone know, someone that can do something. No.
So he leaves the building and goes out and actually meets with officers who by now have been dispatched to the parking lot. And the people giving the interviews are from the bank robbery. They're the tellers, the employees, and they're in shadow. You are thinking this is your last day on earth. This was very traumatizing. And at this point, they're being interviewed. These men have not been caught. So they're in shadow, and they share that the other robber, the second robber, who was only seemed to be their only job was to be with the hostages, is getting more and more agitated, which I am sure is so nerve-wracking. And he is worried that the robbery is taking too long, and is like mumbling under his breath and acting really erratic. And the first robber comes out and decides to take the vault teller hostage. This, because we're going to find out, the FBI believes that these 2 men are connected to a series of robberies. As of this one, no hostages had been hurt or removed from the scene. So he comes out, he tells his partner, grab one of the 3 women, we're taking her with us. And then for some reason, thank goodness, weirdly enough, the second man, who had been kind of agitated and getting a little nervous, rips his mask off and throws it on the ground. Full face, going full frontal in front of everybody.
No.
Is that just going to be your response now anytime I write a good joke about full frontal? Or
you
anything.
You write jokes about full frontal.
And you're just going to say no to me? That was 100%. That was genius writing right there. That's what I'm going to just drop in Ben's laugh. Full frontal. Ho, 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 ho.
That's enough. No.
I could use that laugh to my advantage every time I make a joke.
I'm getting on and deleting that episode. It's never going to exist after this week.
So he takes his mask off and leaves the bank. So there's 2 robbers and a vault teller. They yeet her in the back of the car, hop in the front, and take off. Sounds like the other 2 vault tellers are left inside the store, managers with police. Okay? Is everyone on the same page? So we get interviewed from the Henderson, that's who it is, right? Henderson Police Department. Yeah, Henderson Police Department. This guy looks like he couldn't be more than a day over 14 years old. And he is interviewed, and he tells us that after driving for several minutes, the robbers drive through a large apartment complex. And the thing about this apartment complex is that the parking lot is very complicated. It has a lot of dead ends and a lot of things that don't necessarily get out the exit. They believe that these men had cased this parking lot beforehand because they were able to go through kind of the maze of the parking lot and get out on the other side.
I agree with him.
I think
if anyone's been in a large apartment complex,
there's no streets, there's no like directions, so you are wandering around.
You can get lost.
Did you ever have to deliver pizzas to like large apartment complex?
Yeah. And if you didn't know, because you would be told the building and the apartment number, but half the time the buildings were not in order.
Or the lights were burnt out where you
could get lost.
Yeah. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. So the police actually almost this is like that game Mousetrap. The police end up getting turned around and getting stuck in certain parts of the parking lot, and the robbers are gone. They're able to get through no problems. So then at that point, they are able to switch to a quote unquote getaway car, release the hostage at this point. They chuck her out of the car. She's interviewed and she says that once she got in the car, she thought the best thing she could do, and I think this probably saved her life. She put her head down and just buried her face, because it was almost like, if I don't know what's going on and I don't see them, then they don't have a reason to dead men tell no tales sort of thing, right?
She was afraid they were going to kill her, which is a valid. They just took her from the bank and
at
put her in the
gunpoint.
back of their car.
And they're acting like crazy people.
So you've got to imagine the worst thing is going to happen to you.
Mm-hmm. So authorities believe that the two men that held up the Henderson Bank are responsible for 10 other bank robberies from 1986 to 1991. And in every case, their disguise had successfully concealed their identity. They wore these masks. They show a blurry picture of them at one point, of them from surveillance from inside of a bank. The mask is very creepy, from that time, 1980s Halloween mask. And that morning, though, you guys, no joke, there is a woman who is a news reporter, I think for a local newspaper, and her name's Catherine Scott. She has in her possession a police scanner. And she is, as most reporters would have done at that time, is sitting at her news desk that morning, probably thinking of something to write. I don't think a lot of crazy things happen in Henderson.
Technically, you have a police scanner.
Okay, I don't anymore. Did you recently, side quest, come with me on this journey? Pima County, post the Nancy Guthrie case, and Tucson PD scrambled their police scanners, and they no longer are able to be used on any of the police scanner apps.
Encrypted now.
Encrypted is the word I was looking for, not scrambled. Yeah, they're encrypted, but only because of, my conspiracy theory is because it's of the Nancy Guthrie thing.
But I'm just saying, now there's apps for it.
There's apps that you can pull up police scanners and listen to what is happening right now in Podunk, New Jersey, and you can listen anywhere. And which, I'm sure would be a really fun experiment every once in a while to be oh, it's 3 a.m. over on the East Coast. What's happening in some of these little tiny towns? But yeah, I just found this out because I've got a contact that is a reporter, an investigative Facebook sort of YouTube reporter who is local. That's the person I reached out to when there was a shooting at the mall that we were at, and sent him a message. And he was actually telling me what was happening at the mall before I saw the reports of what was happening, because he was listening to the police scanners at his house. And so he is struggling right now because he would post hey, stay out of this area, avoid these things because this is happening on the police scanner right now. And post Nancy Guthrie, only 2 weeks ago, Pima County and Tucson PD encrypted their scanner, so we can't listen to them anymore, which I got a lot of thoughts on, but that's another podcast for another day, as one would say. Okay, so yeah, Mrs. Scott is just doing her due diligence. She's a news reporter, and she hears something juicy coming across, and that is that there are 2 men driving a stolen vehicle or a getaway car, and they believe that they are headed along Sunset Road, heading in a certain direction. And she's like, well, shiz, that's right down the street from my station. So she, in the reenactment, has her ginormous radio tucked underneath her arm. She has got a old-fashioned camera, the kind you would roll,
Back then, it was not old-fashioned.
It was new times back then. And she is high-stepping it out to her car, in her heels and everything. And she gets in her vehicle, and no joke, she's interviewed, and she is telling us this story in all of the 90s glory outfit that she has on. The hair, the makeup, the outfit. She even had a brooch on. It was incredible. She is saying that as she is driving, let's just say north, she sees a vehicle driving at a rapid rate of speed south, and she recognizes it as the vehicle that had been described on her radio. And she starts to be like, oh my gosh, I've got a camera in my hand. I can take a picture. But if I take a picture, these people might see that I have a picture, and then they might pull out their weapons, and then they could shoot me. But I could also do the right thing. I need to take this picture. And she goes back and forth. She said almost time slows down, and that she's like having this internal debate. And finally, at the very last second, as they're driving south and she's heading north, she pulls up her camera in the rolled down window as they're driving by, and just like one click, because you couldn't rapid fire cameras back then, and just keeps driving on. And I'm sure her heart was boom, 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 boom. I was expecting this picture to be the most ridiculous, blurry thing you'd ever seen.
It wasn't as bad as I thought.
I agree. I was actually quite impressed with, at the rate of speed that she was going one way and they were going the other, that this was able to capture anything. So she is literally the hero of the day. She has this picture. She's able to turn it over to the FBI. The FBI is able to take the picture and CSI enhance it. Zoom, 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 zoom. They get a pretty good look at this guy. It's, of course, a side profile because he's driving the vehicle. And from that, they're able to give us a composite. And that is where Unsolved Mystery leaves us.
Okay, who robbed this bank?
Okay, let me tell you.
Update.
They are captured, not necessarily due to Unsolved Mysteries, though. So,
shocking.
You guys, buckle up because this gets crazy. Not that it hasn't already been crazy enough, but November 11th, 1997, Nebraska.
97?
Yeah. They got away with this for another 6 years.
A long time.
So Nebraska State Police stop a car for speeding. The driver appeared to be very nervous and handed police a fake driver's license. While at the same time, there was a cute little canine pup in the car, and he gets out, and this canine dog, this police dog, Officer Puppyface, begins barking wildly at a suitcase that appears to be in the back seat of the car. The officers open up the bag and find $1.8 million. This man has a suitcase full of cash in his car. The driver turned out to be a man named William Arthur Kirkpatrick, which is weirdly a really good, strong name.
Arthur Kirkpatrick?
Kirkpatrick. Kirk. So not Kirks, but Kirkpatrick.
Kirkpatrick.
One of two men that the FBI had dubbed, quote, the trench coat robbers. Okay?
The trench coat robbers?
Yeah.
On Unsolved Mysteries.
I love it. I love the irony of it all. Okay. So, with help from Kirkpatrick's girlfriend, the FBI are able to identify and locate the second man, Raymond Lewis Bowman. He was serving a 24-year prison sentence, but then died behind bars in 2011. Kirkpatrick pleads guilty and was sentenced to 15 years in prison, has since been released. Cannot find that he has committed any other crimes, at least under that name, and been caught since then. Okay, I have some side quest information that no one has asked for, but I thought it was crazy.
But you went on your side quest.
Yeah, so you don't want to listen to it, fine. Scroll ahead. I don't care. But
use that skip 30-second button.
Use that skip button. But Ben doesn't have a skip button.
I don't.
So,
and I would never want a skip button for you.
Okay, first off, I'm going to give some credit where credit is due. There was a post by someone named Partners in Crime on a Reddit subthread. They also have a YouTube channel where Partners in Crime, I'm going to guess it's female, because I only read her transcript. I didn't go watch the YouTube of it. But she gives us the story of the trench coat robbers in detail. And so I'm going to read you her transcript. This is her writing, not mine. Want to make that clear? Yes. So
her work.
William Arthur Billy Kirkpatrick was a notorious shoplifter back in the 1970s.
They always start with shoplifting.
Listen, it gets even better. He was well known to boost record albums, and boost meant steal, who would shoplift truckloads of recorded albums and other goods and then fenced it to a popular record store in Kansas City named Tiger Records. Tiger Records, turns out, was well known for always having the latest albums, which sold for ridiculously below market value, up to 75% off where other retailers were selling it. And then Tiger, the owner of Tiger Records, turned out to be part of the Italian mafia and had several stable record boosters. So that is William.
The mafia
is
always involved.
He started out by stealing records for the mob. So Tiger always had a long list of albums, watches, tennis rackets, and leather coats, among other things he needed. And he would ask William Kirkpatrick and several other people.
I just think it's funny that a mob guy was selling tennis rackets.
I agree.
Which it was part of a racket.
Which was part of a racket. Dang it, you stole literally my joke. I had that written, which was kind of a racket.
I'm so proud of myself.
You're stealing my jokes.
I didn't even know.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Which was kind of a racket. All right. So they would go with their personal vehicles and fill them up with these shoplifted items, drop them off at Tiger's. During one of those deliveries, Kirkpatrick runs into one of his lifelong buddies, Ray Bowman, who also had gotten into the business of being a booster for Tiger. So at this point...
Listen, not for Tiger, for the mob.
Yes, for the Italian mafia in Kansas City, Missouri, of all freaking places. All right, so Kirkpatrick and Bowman, see, this is why I had to tell you this stuff. I'm so grateful for Partners in Crime for giving us this deep dive because it's ridiculous. Okay, so Kirkpatrick and Bowman had known each other for quite a long time, and it didn't take them long for them to start getting into cahoots with each other. So Bowman was a big spender. He liked to dress in expensive clothing, splurge on club girls, in quotation, so we all know what that means.
Prostitutes.
Here's the best part. He also had a taste for cocaine and limousines, as one does.
For coke. Limousines. Who gets a limousine?
It is such an 80s thing to be into limousines, isn't it?
He probably wore a white suit.
Oh, I can only imagine this. And I bet there was chest hair and a gold necklace involved chain. For sure. Okay. And he loved to take his friends out to $1,000 dinners. I wouldn't mind a friend like that in my life. So with Kirkpatrick also now being kind of drawn to life in the fast lane, it didn't take long for them to graduate from boosting stuff for the Italian mob to bank robberies. After the first few bank robberies, they soon perfected their craft. They were very careful. They resided in separate states to make it difficult for police to connect between the two. They always traveled to a different location for their next target. They never robbed any bank near or close to any of their locations or homes. They spent months blending in with locals while staking out and targeting the bank. They carefully planned their heist. They were armed with guns, wigs, fake beards, sunglasses, gloves, and several other disguises. Kirkpatrick and Bowman were always successful with each heist thanks to their careful planning and disguises. Still, one thing they always consistent in every robbery is that they were wearing trench coats. The FBI had no clue who they were, but they dubbed them the trench coat bank robbers. And in 1997, 57-year-old Kirkpatrick and 53-year-old Bowman set out to land the final score. They always do.
Technically, it is a final score if you get caught.
Well, this was up in Washington. So this is not even like having to do with Nevada. So they check into a local hotel in Tacoma, Washington. They spend tons of time eating at the finest restaurants, even becoming regulars like at piano bars. They attend like high-end concerts, and they carefully are surveying the Sea First Bank of Lakewood. And pre-heist activities lasted for a month. Finally, they figured out the bank always collected a large amount of cash on payday from a nearby army base and Indian casino that banked with these people, and the excess cash of branches of the other Sea First banks. So the day came around, February 10th, 1997, using a master key that he had crafted himself. Kirkpatrick steals a brand new Cherokee Jeep, of which they used to drive to the bank. So they dress in FBI hats, sunglasses and gloves, and of course, trench coats. And they even put an earpiece in with attached to a police scanner. So long story short, they go in, they are able to leave. They fill up duffel bags with $4 million in cash, weighing 350 pounds. The FBI floods the city. They do roadblocks, searching every motel in the vicinity. Like, they find the getaway car had been wiped down and like no prints. And these two men, the trench coat robbers, are nowhere to be found. They're gone. Kirkpatrick and Bowman had moved south, checked into a motel in Portland, Oregon, split the cash in half, gave each other a high five, and headed home using 2 different routes to get back across the country.
Here's the thing. As long as...
It's hard to say what I think you're going to say, because I think emotionally there is a lot of damage done. Is that what you were going to say, is like they didn't hurt anybody in these?
No one was killed.
Yes.
I don't know. I've never looked into the guys.
It doesn't seem that they ever murdered anybody. No one was ever physically harmed in these robberies.
I don't know, man. That's wild.
This is okay. I know that this is not part of the Unsolved Mysteries, but when I was reading this, I was like, this is incredibly fascinating. We are a true crime
That's
podcast.
What I'm saying. It's wild and crazy to me because you don't hear of crimes like this.
And I think it's easy when there's like, yes, no one was physically hurt. It definitely gives you, and this thing, they weren't turning around and necessarily doing a lot of good things with this money either, but they weren't also doing terrible things.
You know what?
It's very kind of Robin Hoodish in a way.
I take it back. You kidnapped a lady the one, and that was,
that crossed the line.
Extremely traumatizing.
Yeah.
Anyone to be taken by gunpoint, put in the back of a car.
It's easy to say this when we cover a lot of terrible things, to be like, well, this is fascinating to me. I think this is kind of funny.
Obviously, it's an interesting story, but just because you don't hear what you're reading sounds like a movie.
Yes.
Like we've watched like Ocean's 11 and that, like,
yes.
And you just don't think criminals are really that well thought out and that patient.
I had to start out with the mob or the mafia. Like, it's okay.
To an extent.
Yeah. So they each ended up with well over $2 million. So the trench rope robberies made history because at that point they had pulled off the largest bank robbery in the United States and technically had gotten away with it. But this is where the problem is. All of that cash eventually becomes somebody's undoing. Because how do you spend that kind of money without any record, especially in the kind of the more digital age that they're starting to get into, right?
Facebook Marketplace.
You start laundering money through Facebook Marketplace. I did actually see side quest from our side quest. Saw this lady walking around an antique store that she was like, how is this place in business? Because like everything in the antique store started at like $1,000 and like went up. It was like $28,000 for these things. And I commented on the thing and I was like, I'm not saying that I would launder money by owning a ridiculously overpriced antique store, but I'm also not saying that that wouldn't be awesome. So there's a business thought for you.
Well, you gotta think, because an antique store, your records is that someone brought this in and you sold it.
Yep.
And that then you sold it for $10,000.
Yeah, hey, business cats, just give us a kickback. Okay, so This is where things start to unravel for the trench coats. So Kirkpatrick gives his girlfriend $188,000 in cash to pay for a cabin that they were purchasing in rural Minnesota. So she puts the cash in brown paper bags and just hands it over to the builder. Okay? So Michael, who's building this house and is holding bags of cash, him and the girlfriend get into a heated argument because they disagreed about some final touches in the highly customized cabin. This woman could not just let this go. So she starts a fight with a man that's holding a bag of untraceable or unverified money. I'm going to guess this guy's paying cash. I don't care. The problem is she ticked off the wrong person. She bit the hand that fed her. So he, upset over the argument, decides to report the bag of cash to the IRS.
The builder?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. As a result, the IRS pays a visit to the cabin. And unfortunately, these people are not able to verify any source of income. So Kirkpatrick, at the time, is there with his girlfriend, and now the FBI is alerted. So while the IRS is investigating Kirkpatrick and his girlfriend in Minnesota, Ray makes a few silly mistakes of his own. First, he forgot to pay the owner of a storage unit, which how many times have we heard that? Where he stashed a bunch of guns and disguises. So the owner goes into the storage unit that had not been paid and finds obviously these things and says that they're suspicious, and he reports the storage unit to the ATF. The ATF then puts a wiretap in Bowman's phone where they heard suspicious conversation between Bowman and someone in Minnesota. With the IRS at his front door, Kirkpatrick panics. He stashes the bulk of his cash from the robbery in a safety deposit box in Las Vegas. And while he was afraid the authorities might discover the money, he drives 1,700 miles to the bank in Las Vegas to retrieve the cash, only to get pulled over by the state trooper on his way back to Minnesota. So does that make sense? He's got a stash of cash in Vegas. He drives to Vegas to go get it. Because
in a bank?
It says, that he had it in a safety deposit box.
Oh, okay.
So it's not sitting in an account.
It's in a bank account.
No, it's in a deposit box. So he goes there, a 1,700-mile drive, books it there.
Because I say, if you walk in a bank and says, I need to withdraw $1.8 million, the bank ain't be like, sure, give me 20 minutes.
Yeah, as we make a couple
the bank
phone
goes,
calls.
Hey, FBI.
I think if you went in there with a bunch of cash and said, I'd like to open a checking account.
If they've been doing this for over 10 years, you'd have been depositing it.
Yeah.
And then you go, hey, I need my $1.8 million. The bank's going to go, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But
ding, ding, ding.
A safety deposit, that makes sense.
Yeah. But on his way back to Minnesota, he gets pulled over for driving 7 miles over the speed limit.
That was a bored cop. And man, you just hit the jackpot.
The cop hit the jackpot. Yeah, absolutely. So he is caught with a car filled to the brim with cash. So Kirkpatrick's obviously on edge and didn't take long for state troopers to notice. So after searching the vehicle for what they assume is drug money, the state trooper also finds guns and disguises, a pair of foot lockers with the bulk of Kirkpatrick's loot, nearly $2 million in cash.
Wait, a pair of what?
Foot lockers? I don't know. I thought as a cop, is that
shoes?
I don't think it was shoes. It's not like the store. He didn't have the store.
Well, the store doesn't sell foot lockers. They sell shoes from different, I don't know. Anyways, keep going.
Okay. It said, and a pair of foot lockers. I'm going to guess that's the ankle things that you put, that as the cops put around people's ankles. They lock your feet. They're foot lockers.
What?
If I am right.
What?
Do you know what I'm talking about when bad guys when they come into
ankle
prison?
Monitors?
No, the actual chains that go around their ankles and they connect their legs together. So they can't run away like shackles.
Shackles.
They call them foot lockers.
Really?
Yeah, obviously.
According to Sierra, they call them foot lockers.
It makes sense. Their feet are locked in place.
It makes sense. Just because.
Okay. So he had foot lockers on him. Okay. So he's obviously immediately arrested. All right. And the state trooper, bless his heart, has no idea at this point that he has just nabbed one of the most infamous bank robbers and part of a duo from the trench coat bank robbers and is high up on the FBI's most wanted list. So his girlfriend comes to the courthouse with William Kirkpatrick in jail. She's arrested and charged on the spot for conspiracy. Searching their cabin, they also uncover a picture of Ray Bowman and his family inside the cabin. Warrants are then issued for a search of Bowman's house, of which they uncover more evidence. He had $480,000 in cash that is still bundled with the C First bank wrappers on them. So the FBI, having all the evidence they could ever want, a grand jury immediately indicts the trenchcoat robbers. Obviously, see no way out of this. Like, Peggy asks her boyfriend to tell the truth. He admits to the crime, so he pleads guilty to 4 out of 28 bank robs the FBI connected him to. But he could only be charged with 3 of them because statute of limitations had started to run out on some of these bank robberies. I love that there was 28. He says, I'll take you for 4. And then it turns out, okay, I can only take you for 3 because of statute of limitations. Couldn't they have pulled one of the other robberies? I don't know. Those are just questions I had. Thus, he is sentenced to 15 years and 8 months in prison. And after that, he served his full sentence and is released. On the other hand, Bowman didn't fare so well in prison because he got a 24-year sentence and didn't make it out alive. So,
a foot locker is a chest.
Is a chest?
Yeah, that you
like
put at the end of
the pirates?
Bed. It's just a box you put at the end of the bed.
Why would you call it a foot? Oh, it's a locker at the foot of the bed.
Nailed it.
I like mine better. When I was like reading and writing this, I just assumed that's what a foot locker was, that he just had some...
He had some shackles in the back, and the cop's like, what you got there?
And he's like, it's a foot locker, obviously.
Obviously, you lock your foot up.
You're...
Just one, though.
This is how my brain works, and I just literally know.
Just one
I would have never questioned this.
Not feet, 1 foot.
Just a foot locker.
Just lock that 1 foot up.
It's because it's turning 2 feet into 1. They're locked. All right. This is starting to go off the rails, guys. Okay. That is our recap. I am so sorry. We're at almost 2 hours of recording time.
Golly.
I know. Okay. I had a question. Ben and I were going to talk about the possibility and theories of time travel. I don't think we have it in us for that tonight. So, Ben, let's see. Why don't you tell me? Oh, yeah. I guess if you don't want to hang out for question time with Ben, feel free to exit stage right now. And then for the rest of everybody, Ben, what's a simple question I can ask you? What's something you're looking forward to this summer? Anything on the radar?
Anything on the radar?
Yeah.
I always enjoy, Arizona summers suck. But
yes,
the only good thing that we get at Arizona is it gets hot enough to hang out in the pool. And we usually... For us as a family, we have a pool in our backyard. And before you think that's like big bougie, it's pretty common in Arizona. Like a lot of houses have pools.
Yeah, but we also have a hot tub.
We do have
Humble
a hot tub.
brag.
So it's, and I've been getting the pool cleaned up and getting it ready. And we always have a couple days where just as a family, we've got a big speaker we put out there, get some country music playing. Sierra is not a big swimmer, but she loves to lay out and hang out in the sun. And me and the kids play in the pool. And I love those days where we don't really have a whole lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
We just have good food and we play some music and we swim in the pool. It's kind of like our kickoff to summer.
Yeah.
And hang out in the hot tub, hang out in the pool. And I like those days.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun.
You know, just kind of carefree. It's great. They're wonderful days, and I have really fond memories of. We don't, you know, because usually even once summer gets going, like our kids are busy.
So yeah, I would say our kids only get several weeks of summer here. The school district that we're in is very short summers. And it's so hot that like a lot of normal outdoor activities, we don't really get to participate in here. We do them now. Like last night I was at an outdoor concert and like we were in jeans and a t-shirt and it was warm. Like it felt like the 4th of July last night where it wasn't.
It's nice weather.
Yeah. And so to be able to get to do that I always tell people like it gets kind of almost weirdly depressing here in the summer because we spend like 2.5, 3 months almost inside 90% of the time.
Well, so everyone says like Arizona, you spend your inside time in the summer.
Yeah.
We spend our outside time in fall, winter.
And
here's the
spring.
thing. We do get a lot of outside time.
Mm-hmm.
But
it just feels weird when everyone else is like barbecuing and traveling and doing all these things. And literally we are at some days 115
We're
degrees.
trying to find indoor stuff to do.
And it's because the heat here can be life threatening. People die every year from it. So to have days where we have no other major responsibilities, the kids don't have 20 places to be, everyone's home and stuff. And it's early afternoon. It's like, listen, let's make some good food. Let's turn on some music and let's just hang out and play in the pool. It's fun. I enjoy pool activities. I just don't enjoy splashing activities. And so when you guys get in the pool, Ben turns into a 14-year-old and it's like,
me and the kids play games.
It is jumping.
We've got a lot of stuff we do in the pool.
It's chaos. Half the pool water is out of the pool.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's totally fun. And I love getting to participate in that whilst I lay there in the sun and just get golden brown. But yeah, other times you can usually find me in the pool when there's nobody else in the pool and I'm just there with my floaty, and an ice cold Diet Coke because I have a pool floaty that has like a cup holder in it. But yeah, that's awesome. I'm excited.
All right. What about you?
Same kind of thing. I will say, I do love summer monsoons. It's something I've never experienced before. It's very kind of a very Southwest thing. I love it. All of a sudden, these black clouds roll. I love stormy weather. And so to have these violent storms come through with thunder and lightning and dumps of rain, the only downside is they literally, they sometimes last, minutes, like 4 or 5 minutes to like maybe 20, 30 minutes at the most. But it's really cool to see kind of that violent change in the weather. So, all right, guys. Well, make sure to join us again next week where Ben and I recap another episode of
Unsolved Mysteries.
Bye.